Hello and welcome to Riverside Crafts this afternoon. I'm Ray and I'm going to show you how I made this card topper today. I use a stamp from Woodware by Francois Reed. It's obviously Postbox, so I'm going to start off where I sort of go from. And first off is a piece of watercolour cardstock. I've stamped my images on a stamp platform and VersaFine Clair. I've used this because it's a waterproof ink. It's also very good at detail, so it sort of gives me a really nice coverage and picks up everything I'm looking at. So that's that bit done. The first thing you'll notice is that the edges around this are all done in blue, and it's not particularly brilliant on camera. Actually, I have to say it fades out quite a lot. So, but it is got a blue around it. To do that, I used this product called Mask It. So I stamped it on here. It's sort of plasticky with a permanent ink, like stays on, that dries on every surface. And then I'm just going to cover over my stamp area first. Just put it on here if I can get it in. Going to come down a bit, gone a bit too high. One of the good things about this stuff is it will peel off and you can use it again and again and again. So it's not something that you're going to end up with one hit wonder. It is, you put it on the back of the stamp and you can use it until it runs out of sticky. So I've covered over the area that I'm going to paint, and I'm going to do my blue around the edge. Okay, so first thing I'm going to put my piece of watercolour card onto a blending mat. I'm going to be using speckled egg distress ink to do this. So I'm just going to start pulling some colour off. I'm using my a blending brush mainly because, to be honest, I'm finding that I'm getting a better finish. Okay, and the reason that I'm putting some blue on is because I want to use a product called Fluff It, which gives you a feeling of snow. But what's the point in putting white on top of white card? It doesn't show up. So first things first, we will just give the cardstock a blue tinge so that our snow, when we come to put it on a bit later, will show up. Okay, so I'm just going to take, obviously I'm not going to do the blue all the way around the card because I don't want it down here where there would be snow on the ground. So I'm just going to take it a little bit and do it around the edges, making sure I'm putting a reasonable amount down because I want it to be quite definitely blue. I'm using speckled egg because it's that bluey grey tone that actually works quite well as a winter sky. The other one that I tend to use a lot is Stormy Sky, because that works really well in the same sort of situation. It gives you that real nice sort of dark stormy element, which is what you're looking for. Right, so I'm just going to put that out of the way. Right, I'm going to peel off my Mask It now. Take your time when you're peeling it because it will, it won't not be where you want it, but it will, if you're not careful, be tear when you're pulling it off. So just take your time to tear it off so you get all of the bits that you want. Okay, and then I just store it on the back of my stamp set. So here's my stamp set, and I'm just going to put my piece of Mask It on the back of it. And then I've got it always there for whenever I use my card. So my Mask It sits on the back, all nice, safe and sound for the next time I want to use it. Okay, so that's how I store my Mask It. Here's my image now, got the blue edge on it. So now I'm going to paint it. Now the colours that I'm going to be using are Candied Apple, Aged Mahogany and Black Soot and Vintage Photo. Okay, so I'm just going to put these on a blending mat again. I'm using a blending mat because it basically holds the ink better and it gives me time to actually work with it and move it around. It doesn't dry as quickly. You can use a white tile or your glass mat, depending on what you've got. I tend to like a blending mat because I make a mess, so it is something I can wipe up and clean up. Right, so a little bit of water. Take the excess off your brush using a dry tissue. I'm just going to colour this in and start putting my red on. Now, as you can see, I'm sort of using a wiggling motion while I'm doing it, because I'm giving my, so that I don't end up with too many lines on it. Okay, and I'm just going to bring it in. Keep damping the brush to make sure I've got anything kind of water on it. Okay, I'm just putting this on to start with. A bit more red coming up here. Put some more out. You do use quite a lot of this, so it is a definite one that you're going to get through quite a bit with. The other red that's quite good for this is Festive Berries, and that's if you've got a couple of different inks, you don't know which ones are which. Festive Berries is quite a good one to use as well, because it's a nice definite red, and you can sort of put quite a lot of it on, and it will give you a really nice definite colour, which is what you're looking for. Right. So I'm just going to put a bit more of my red in. I want it to be a bit darker than it is. It's definitely more red. Now I'm going to start picking a bit of aged mahogany and darkening the edges where I want some shadow to show, because it will just help it all sort of blend in a bit more. So I'm just taking my edges and making it a bit darker, picking it up and moving it in a little bit, adding more colour where there's going to be shadow because of something else happening. So where there's a little bit of a work, just put a little bit in to shadow it. And darken it up a little bit and give it a bit more intensity of the colour. Okay. Now if you're not sure and you think you might have got a little bit of a sort of dry bit where you're not happy, just put some water on your brush and wiggle it, and it will help it sort of move and give you that sense of it all blending much better, so you don't end up with lots of sort of areas that aren't colouring in properly for you. Okay, right, so that's the main part of red done. I'm now going to do a little bit on my robins, but I'm not putting a lot of red on them because I don't want the Postbox to be the element of bright red, if that makes sense. So these are just having a little bit on their tummies. Right, so that's that bit done. Right, now we've got a little bit of black to put on, and it is a little bit, and I wait normally until I'm sure that all the other bits are done. So I'm just going to put some black in. Okay. Just going to put it down the sides here. I'm just going to do this here. The empty bit will be in shadow. Get my brush and put a bit of water on it just to blend it around. I'm just going to put a little bit of black on the base here where it would sort of like be sitting on concrete or something. So just put a little bit of black in just to help it look that bit darker. Right, there we go. So that's going to do that for a minute. Now I'm going to do my birds, and I'm using Vintage Photo, which is a sort of a mid-brown, not too dark, not too in your face, but just enough to give them a bit of a oomph. Now I'm using a size 4 paintbrush, so it's not a particularly big brush, but it's just enough to pick up the ink and get in the little bits like the wings and things without going everywhere, because that's one of the difficult things when you're doing sort of the stamps. Are slightly, with them being smaller, you end up, if you're not careful, you can't get your brush in those gaps. This helps. Right. Put a little bit, just let that set a second, and put a bit more brown on just to give them a shape. So I'm just going to put a little bit of brown on either side of them, just so it sort of gives them a bit more where there would be shadows. One of the nice things about the stamp is that where those little dots are is where the sort of shadowy elements would be. So it sort of guides you where you want to put it, if that makes sense, which makes life a little bit easier. A little bit more water, I think. Too dry. Right, so that's my little robins done. Now, I've got a bit of white just hanging there from when I put the colour on with my blending brush. I obviously didn't cut that little bit out, did I? So I'm just going to get my paintbrush, and with the same colour I'm just going to fill in those little gaps. So if you've got any areas where your cutting out wasn't perfect, just drop a little bit of that colour in on top, and it will help it blend in for you quite happily. Alright, so that's my painting done. Now I'm going to use a product called Fluff It, which is a project that looks like, gives you sort of a fake snow effect. Okay, so it comes in a jar, as you saw, like this, by Pink Ink Designs. You need a spatula to put it on with. It goes a long way, so it's sort of quite good in that way. And I'm just going to put myself little bits of it, not loads, but some of it over here where I think I might want it for snow. So I'm just sort of like leaving it on and just dragging it across where I want my snow to be. Okay, putting a bit down if I want a little bit more, just sort of leaving it in. Alright, I'm just going to put a little bit up here where there's snow, up here on top of that, and there. Bit there. Okay, so that's the snow done. Scrape off the excess off of your palette knife and just give it a bit of a wipe down. You can colour flip it as well, so that's quite good. You can colour it and make it do different things. Now you just need a heat gun. Okay, I've got my heat gun out. You can also use white heat embossing if you wanted to do this technique as well. Give you a different sort of enamel finish on it. When you've heated your Fluff It and it's gone all bubbly, you need to remember to put it to one side and let it completely dry, because it does take it a little while to completely solidify and dry up. So you just want to make sure that happens as well. Right, now you can see I've got some snow. Now your snow is quite 3D, so if I just pick it up to the edge so you can see. Can you see how it sticks out? So it's actually quite 3D and fluffy, which is quite nice. But you just got to wait for it to harden completely, and then you've got it there to do. Now, if you can see, there's a little bit of bleed here onto that. Well, what I'll do later is a little tiny bit of white acrylic if it goes too pink, just to whiten that off again, because sometimes you can't do anything about it. But now you can see how the fluff it's working and giving a really nice texture on the card. And you can see why I've done the blue in the background. Now, if you take a white gel pen or a white acrylic Posca pen, either will do. Just need a bit of cardstock to get it going on. Just a second. Need a little bit of card. Here we go. Because I always matte and layer these up. I tend to do a lot of matte layer onto black, because that works quite well. So I've just used my Posca pen a second. Make sure it's going. Here we go. It's working. And what I'm going to do is use it to put some dots to give me snow falling on my card. And because it's white acrylic inside the Posca pen, it will stay where I put it. It doesn't go anywhere else, and it stays white, which is what you like. But it gives you this sort of snowy effect. And I can just put it over those areas that got a bit pink, make them look white again.